Well, hopefully you enjoyed that video and learned a little bit about how hormonal implants work and how they're inserted and so on. Something I wanted to talk about in specific is the comment that she made about how these implants can't migrate outside of the site of injection. And so I wanted to show you some case study evidence regarding migration of these implants, whether it's Implant-On or Nexplant-On. There have been reports of both of these types of implants migrating out of the site of the injection. So here we have from 2017, migration of contraceptive implant into the left pulmonary artery system. So the implant was placed in the left arm, and then the implant migrated up into the arteries that feed the left lung. So that's dangerous and painful. And so this case was in 2017 of an 18-year-old woman. This case, same exact thing happened where it migrated into the pulmonary artery, and this one was reported in 2015. And then in this case, we have two more cases in 2017 that came out of France. And so I wanted to zoom in a second on this last one. And one of the things that, there we go. The implication that these authors reported was that it looks like it's a matter of whether the doctor is implanting the little matchstick in the correct position over the biceps muscle. It looks like the times where it has been migrating out of the location has been when they put it between the biceps muscle and the triceps muscle. That divot is called a sulcus. And so they're saying if you put it over the biceps rather than in that gap between the bicep and the tricep muscle that's down under your arm, you'll have much less migration. So I had to correct that because I don't like it when real concerns are glossed over by these kinds of videos. It's really important for, I think, everybody to know the risks. I mean, for me, reading these case studies makes me just want to make sure if I were going to have this done to ask my doctor, what is your strategy for implanting it into my arm? Are you going to make sure that it's over the solid muscle and not between the muscles, right? Like being informed allows you to make sure that you can ask the questions that you need to ask. So there are legitimate migration concerns, and they are not old. They are, very current concerns about the very current implants that are on the market today. So I just wanted to say that. And then, of course, I want to go over the effectiveness. Now, the theoretical and the actual use tend to match really well because everything is taken care of under the control of a physician. And so it's put there, even if it has migrated out of its position, it's still secreting its hormones. And so, there are millions of women who have had these things implanted. And so to have, a few case studies with these bad effects is really, it's very, very rare. So I do want to make sure I emphasize that. And I also want to emphasize that they're still effective, even if the most common migration problem that they found, by the way, is with it just going a little bit higher or a little bit lower along your arm. It doesn't generally dive into your vasculatory system and move around. And so it's very effective. It's very reasonably safe. It's even easier than any of the other hormonal methods that we've looked at because now you have 5 years. Implant-On was 3 years. Nexplant-On is 5 years. So you have a really long period of time to not have to worry about it. And it doesn't have any of the kind of user errors, so it's even more effective. Has all the same advantages of any of the other hormonal methods. Has the same disadvantages as anything else, but we will mention that it has got a weight gain problem. The average for Implant-On, at least, was 2.8 pounds per year, so it's not as big as the depot shot. I couldn't find good data on the average weight increase on Nexplant-On, so I'm not exactly sure what it is. Some women complain that getting it removed is quite painful because again, it has to do with whether the doctor implanted it where it belonged. Because if the doctor gets it into the part of the muscle where scar tissue will grab onto it, oftentimes it'll get stuck in the muscle and it'll be difficult to remove when it's time. On the flip side is that dislodging problem where it's too slippery and it's moving around where it's not supposed to go. So those are disadvantages. I would say that the difficult removal is much more common than the dislodging complaints. It's much more common for the doctor to have put it into a place where scar tissue can develop, and it's difficult to get it out when you want to get it out. I actually had a friend who had it adhere to her muscle, and they had to, instead of slipping it out the same way that it had been slipped in, they just had to do a little surgery on it, right, where they had to numb her up and actually cut it open and sew it back up. So it was like surgery instead of what should have been just slipping it out. So, those are viable concerns, legitimate concerns, but they are very rare. All right. How about emergency contraceptive pills? Okay, so we have this nice whiteboard introduction to Plan B. So I'll let them tell you how Plan B works.